It all started in high school. I took two classes that really had a big influence on me. The first was an economics class where we learned about compound interest, and that just blew my mind. The eighth wonder of the world, I believe Albert Einstein said. And the economics professor also taught us about the stock market. And at the time, it was the late 90s, and everybody was making money. My uncles and friends' dads were all talking about the markets and the tech market. And then eventually, they all lost it again. So that was an early uh, insight into how the markets function for me. And the second class was European history, which gave me the travel bug. And at the time, I was playing an online game, and I was buying and selling castles for real money on eBay. And I had some savings, and I took that money and I backpacked around Europe before I started university, and really gave me what I wanted to do. I wanted to do international business. I wanted to do finance, and I decided to learn German. I then studied abroad in Germany for a year. And when I was finishing university, instead of getting a job in finance at an oil company in Texas, I decided I wanted to work in Europe. So I got a job at one of the big banks in Germany. Um, while there, I managed eventually to get myself to the equity desk because that's what I was interested in. That's what I've been kind of following for the last, during university. And went and worked for the big bank. Eventually transferred myself to London because pre-Brexit, that's where finance was done in Europe. But at the time I was, Monday morning, 5 a.m. taking the shower, I was like not happy. Um, Big bank who was very bureaucratic, very institution. There's tons of conflicts of interest with clients. It had really nothing to do with investing, and I didn't didn't enjoy it. And at the time, though, it was the financial crisis, very difficult to go and just switch. You're trying to keep a job, not try to switch career paths. But I did the CFA, and then I decided to use business school to switch myself to the buy side. I applied to all the big US schools, but I decided I really wanted to stay in Europe. And I decided to go to London Business School because they had a value investing course there. Um, and it's taught by a guy named Eddie Ramsden, and it really had a major influence on my career path and also on how to think about investing. Um, and basically, when I was at LBS, I read every single book in the library, and I was applying for the jobs at all the big asset managers in London. In the interview process, I kind of felt it was very similar to the big banks. It was very uh, bureaucratic, very conflicts of interest with the clients. They were asset gatherers and not really performance driven um, kind of places. So that's when I started thinking boutiques. Then the value investing professor, he told his story of how he had gone to Columbia and done the value investing course there, and then subsequently taught there with Joel Greenblatt, and then was seeded into business by Joel Greenblatt. And that was like, wow, that is what I want to do. So I went and I started writing letters to all the famous value investors. I started trying to find family offices and use the LBS network, and yeah, tried to start a fund. I didn't get very far, but one of my colleagues saw how passionate I was and how much effort I was putting into it, and he's like, "Oh, I think I can get you a coffee with someone." And I was like, "Oh, who's that?" He's like, "Oh, Francisco Garcia Parames." I'm like, "Ah, the most prominent value investor in Europe." You just okay. So he did it. He arranged a coffee for me. I went and I met Parames, and I gave him two stock ideas, and then gave him a presentation like, "This is why you should back a young fund manager and give money to start a fund." And being a Spanish gentleman, he didn't laugh directly at me, um, at least not to my face. But he said these are good, interesting stock ideas. And I got his email address, and I then had to go get a job, worked for a hedge fund. But I stayed in contact with Parames. I sent him stock ideas every couple of months. We met for a coffee a couple of times, and I went through every stock I ever invested in, what I got right, what I got wrong, and how I was thinking about things. And after a couple of years, he invited me to Madrid and said, "Hey," and of course I went. And he said, "I'm starting Cobus Asset Management. Would you like to come and be an analyst?" And I said, "No, I want you to give me money to start a fund with." And he, why don't we get to know each other? And if things, work out, maybe I'll think about it. So that's what I did. I went and worked for Parames for a couple of years. I basically ran my own paper portfolio for him, and he could take ideas if he wants to, or ignore my ideas. And after a couple of years of my paper portfolio did very, very well. And he said, "Look, I love your ideas. You're obviously a great, talented stock picker. Let's give you some money to start building a track record." So yeah, that was April 2019. We launched the Palm Harbor Global Value Fund.